Hello and welcome back to Anna Rose Reads the podcast. I am your host Anna, and we are back yet again, twice in 1 week, as I make my grand return to the podcasting scene for 2026. While you got your normally scheduled Tuesday episode on Tuesday, I am very excited to be presenting this interview today on Friday. I am chatting with Yaya Schofield, who is the debut author of On Sundays She Picked Flowers. And when I tell you this book is quite literally one of my most favorite things that I've read recently. I am utterly obsessed with it. It may have something to do with me just having read Shirley Jackson's Haunting of Hill House and being utterly obsessed with that. It may just be the season of my life where I'm very into exploring the wilderness and womanhood and living with the monsters that we do in our life. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but this book just spoke to me on so many freaking levels. And I get to talk to Yaya about it. It's a wonderful time. So I hope that you all enjoy this conversation, and I'll catch you all after. Hi, Yaya. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am thrilled to have you on the podcast. How are you?
Thrilled to be here. Very excited.
I hope that you're staying warm because we are recording this on the weekend of the great winter storm of 2026 that seems
Right.
to be kicking off the year.
The Great Freeze.
Yeah, the great freeze. But I am super stoked to get to chat with you. You have a book coming out in quite literally 2 days, which I want to talk
Yes.
about that feeling. It's called On Sundays She Picked Flowers, and it is a really incredible book. How are you feeling first and foremost?
I am literally bursting with excitement. This is literally the dream that I've had since I was in the first grade. But I remember in the second grade, I was telling everybody, I'm going to be an author when I grow up. I'm going to be an author when I grow up. People will be like, oh, maybe you like journalism, like maybe a teacher. Like, okay, this is like maybe a teeny bit of a silly wish to have, but it's
It is
happening.
happening. I'm so thrilled for you that that's such a relatable feeling. And I feel
Yeah.
like whenever you're little, many people try to give you a more quote unquote practical career.
Yeah.
But I mean, your heart's with writing, and so I know that this feeling has to be a big one. And so this is your debut novel. You were 25, correct?
26, 27 this year.
26. Okay, yeah, so you're a year younger than me. Um, fellow 90s baby still? 99?
Yes, 99.
Okay, cuspers.
Just barely,
Yeah.
barely.
Same. I'm 98, so I very much relate to that. But it's such an incredible novel that you wrote for so many reasons beyond this just being a debut and everything else. But I want to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about you and who you are, what you're about, and then we can introduce the book and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hi, my name is Yaya Schofield. I was born in New York, but raised here in Georgia. Been here since I was like 2 years old. Atlanta, Decatur area. That's like where I came up. Uh, I've always really loved horror.
Hmm.
One of my first memories with horror is like, I think I was maybe like 5 or 6, maybe 7-ish. And like I went to sleep in my mom's room, so I like crawled into her bed, but she was watching Nightmare on Elm Street. And
Oh
that's the
man.
first bit of horror I ever watched, and it gave me horrible nightmares. But also I remember the feeling of being so terrified, but also the feeling being like cathartic. Like,
Hmm.
this is so scary. I want to feel it again. I want to feel it again and again and again. Yeah. And that's basically my whole thing is just like the catharsis of being scared and having control of the fear.
Yeah, that is a really interesting thing that happens with horror that I think a lot of people really kind of like misconstrue. And in fact, like my family as well, they'll be like, I don't understand how you can keep like subjecting yourself to this again and again. But I'm like, but it's not about that because you get resolution at the end and you
Right.
explore all the stuff that feels really hard to like control and explore. And in particular with your book, on Sundays, She Picked Flowers, it is a Southern Gothic tale. And I want to ask you this question because as somebody who has lived in the South, grown up in the South, I mean, when I think about the Southern Gothic and all that thrives here in the realm of horror, I almost feel like really overwhelmed by all
Yeah.
that you can write about. So like, how did you know that you were going to write about this? And like, how did you pick what you were going to write about? You know what I mean? Because there's so much.
It kind of snuck up on me, especially this iteration and what people are seeing now. I first wrote on Sundays when I was 17 years old back in 2016, and it was very much it was a teenager's idea of like what good horror should be. I feel like when I think back on it, it was very creepy pasta.
Yeah.
But as like time progressed and I got a little bit older and I started learning a little bit more and I started reading more like intense like old horror. I wasn't just reading like not even just new stuff. I was reading like Shirley Jackson. I was getting back into my Toni Morrison bag. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I like the way that these old movies in particular build terror
Hmm.
and fright. And I wanted to bring that terror and that fright and that real tummy turning sensation into it. And so combining that desire to create a good tummy ache with my fascination and my love for like Black Southern culture, it
Hmm.
came very like naturally like if we're gonna have a tummy ache, let's have a tummy ache that's rooted in history, that's rooted in experience in real life, not even my real life, but like real life examples.
Yeah. Yeah, a reality for people that we
Yes.
know or that we've seen, that we've had, kind of glimpses of. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you bring up the word tummy ache because I use that
I've,
all the
listen,
time.
you gassed me up. And now my mama, every time my mom talks about the review, she's like, by the way, she's been compared to Toni Morrison. And it's like my head.
No,
Please.
I literally, there's something that's so special about, and I'm really glad that you brought up Shirley Jackson too, because that really came through to me in my
Yeah.
reading of On Sundays. But there's something so palpable, like with, in particular, Shirley Jackson's writing with The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
The stomach ache that I felt in reading that, and like the slow dismantling of Eleanor's predicament, psyche, personality, whatever, was so
Yes.
haunting. And I do feel like you pull upon those same threads with On Sundays. And I want to
Yeah.
go ahead and do this now. If you want to go ahead and briefly summarize the book, I'll let you do that because I'm always afraid to spoil the book.
Spoiler.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna let you handle that, and then we'll kind of keep going a little bit more in depth with it.
Okay. On Sunday, She Picked Flowers is about Jude Rice, who escapes her abusive mother with a very large act of violence, but she like flees to the Okefenokee Forest here in southern Georgia on the Georgia-Florida line, but discovers that running away from the past doesn't mean that you're done with the past. The past just follows you. She meets this very strange woman in the woods. That woman gives her some experiences and we move from there and we love and experience and have horrible, horrible cramps in our stomach from there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And so Jude's story is one that really, really touched me, for a lot of reasons. It's a very emotionally fueled story as and it spans many, many years. Like we're kind of with
Yeah.
her throughout her life, so to speak. Where did you get the first? I know you said that you started or this a draft of this story when you were 17, but
Yeah.
how did you land on Jude and Jude's story and like where did that come from for you?
So this is like total toneship, very dark. Like many other people my age and specifically in the Black community, you grew up being told, spare the rod, spoil the child. You know, you get told, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm beating you because I love you. And violence is like the only form of discipline. And I've seen like more extreme cases like that. Like I know I was whipped. I got hit with the belt a few times. I was spanked, but it's not as bad as other people have gotten for sure. And I heard the stories that my parents would tell about their parents and the stories their parents would tell about their parents and all these other experiences like, oh, well, oh, yeah, well, I talked back to my mom, so she punched me in the mouth. I was late, so I got punched in the chest. This happened, that happened. I got hit with an extension cord. This, that, broom, spoon, on and on. And I was thinking about how that relates back not only to slavery, but also to like this patriarchal idea that pain and the man are in charge of like what gets done, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh yeah, no, it
And when
definitely
I was
does.
thinking about Jude in particular, I was thinking, how long could someone stay in hell before they decided that something drastic had to be done? And of
Hmm.
course, like the obvious comparison that comes to mind is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. There's a lot of weird discourse around these days, like, oh my goodness, why did she do what she did? She could have ran, she could have did this, she could have did that. And I think when I think of that, I think of Jude. And I also do think, you're gonna hear this word a lot, sorry. I
Oh
do
no,
think
go ahead.
back to slavery again, because it's true.
Yeah.
Sure, certain enslaved people could have ran, right? But at what cost?
Hmm.
At the cost of relative safety, at the cost of your life, at the cost of being caught again and brutally punished, maybe killed. And so when I thought about Jude, I thought, what would it take for someone to go, this is enough? This is when my abuser has to die. This is when the pain has to stop. This is my life or theirs. And all like the weights and nuances and like moral quandaries that come with deciding that your life has value and is valuable enough to like kill for,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, 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 no. It makes total sense, and it's such a weighty topic. I think in particular for female identifying people too.
Yeah,
We're kind of told that you aren't like and with the idea of the patriarchy, right? Like you're not
yeah,
as valuable. You were to submit. You were to serve. You were to
yep,
listen. And so like one with the gender norm, and then two obviously with the race category of it all,
yeah,
it's hard to break that cycle. And I think it's a really interesting question to pose. Where do we break at that point? Is there a breaking point,
yeah.
and how do we find it? And it really does speak to the Southern Gothic nature of the book because so much of what I think makes the Gothic so interesting and like really thrives in the dark
Mhm.
is like those secrets that we don't know about, the kind of violence that's kept behind closed doors that kind of bleeds into like the everyday functioning of a family,
Yeah.
but not, full on. And I think, what you built with Jude's story and, particularly with her family is one of the greatest like generational cycle breaks that I've read in like a character arc, for better or for worse, like with all these people's characters development, because there's Jude and her mom, but there's also her two aunts that are involved in this story, who I think are
Yes.
really, really interesting characters for different reasons. What was that experience like for you to tell that story of like such tremendous cycle breaking? You know what I mean?
Like there were times where it was like, this is so cathartic. Like I'm really letting something off my chest. It's
Yeah.
time to like, and I'm just writing it. I'm like, yeah, yeah, and this and this and this. And then there's times where I'm just like, I would finish a chapter and I would have to like close my laptop, lay down in my room, weight a blanket on me, and just be like, all right,
Yeah.
it's time to boohoo it out a little bit. Like I think one scene in particular kind of spoilery-ish. It's like with Jude's aunts when they're going up to Sparta.
Hmm.
Oh God, I remember writing that scene. It was just like, this hurts the most
Yeah.
because it's something about knowing that someone that you love is capable of being horrible,
Hmm.
is capable of doing terrible, terrible things, but still loving that part of them that was your family and was your friend and was like your soul.
Yeah. I think, and I'm curious if you feel the same way about this, but I feel like, in particularly in the South, like culturally with people,
Mm-hmm.
denial is so easy. Like,
It
a,
is.
a lot of people really subscribe to denial, and particularly like with family, whenever there's behavior that they
Yeah.
don't, agree with, it's easy to be like, oh, it was just a bad day, brush it off, and then like never act like it never happened again. And I feel like that
Yes.
almost feels like another character in the story, like a ghost that haunts all of them. The denial.
Oh my.
of
Wig.
push of pushing all this away, right? But like it's
Played that.
so yeah, it's so common down here. Like I don't it's forever interested me and confused me why it's like that here. You know what I mean?
I think it's because, and this is gonna sound like so rough to anybody who doesn't live in the South and doesn't live in America. I think it's because nothing was done after slavery to get rid of the Confederates.
Yeah, no, no, that's true. Well,
Like
it's
if we,
it's the ain't broke if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, and it's the way that we've
yeah,
always done it. But like
yeah,
it may not be broken to you, but it's broken to a lot of other people, you
yeah,
know? It's a
yeah,
heavy thing. It's a really, really heavy thing to write about. So I had like, when I was reading the book, all I could think about was like, man, either this is really cathartic or like you said, like, man, this really that the emotion comes across on the page is really what it is. And so I just imagine that that experience would have may have been equally cathartic and heavy, two sides of the same coin, so to speak.
yeah.
So the next topic I kind of want to jump to, and this is kind of following chronologically in the book, is whenever Jude decides to leave home after everything unfolds.
Mhm.
She leaves without really a plan in mind, but she finds herself in the wilderness, so to speak. She's directed to this house in
Mhm.
the woods that nobody's, like really been around. Everybody kind of has like, there's like so to speak, urban legends about it, like with the people who lived there before and what goes on.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a really interesting setup that you create with this house. It's called Candle, is what
yes,
we end up referring to it as. And I was curious about one, the name, and two, your inspiration behind the personality of this house because it is a house with personality. It's like a character.
yeah. So I came up with the name Candle kind of spur of the moment in like one of the later drafts.
Hmm.
'Cause it's made perfect sense. I love a house with a name. I love just like, yes, this is called Wuthering Heights. This is Vanderlei. This is my house, Grey Gardens. It's so cute to me. And I thought Jude would call it a name.
Hmm.
And I'm going to actually reference the Talking Scared podcast because Neil referred to the house as something of like a child
Yeah.
because it can be petulant, it can be needy, and it does need like lots of care and attention. I like that. I like that. It's like naming a child. But when I was thinking of the personality for the house, two things in particular inspired me. Hill House,
Yeah.
obviously, and also just the general vibe of Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, because he has this line in Annihilation that says, desolation colonizes you. And I thought about how, like, when the biologist is like going up the stairs that are going down, about how it's like twisting and turning and it's changing her and she's changing it. That was a huge, huge inspiration. Thinking about like how can an environment morph you
Yeah.
without you even knowing it? Like you know you're changing it. You're like moving furniture and you're putting things here and there. But even as you're like decorating and making it your own, the house is going, okay, let's shift this around. You know that this leaks, so you're gonna adjust to that and you're gonna get used to that and like go like, okay, that leaks. Like where I'm living, for example, I know that in the winter the doors get stuck.
Hmm.
They get like really in the summer the doors get stuck. They get like the wood warps.
Yeah, they
So like
swell.
learning to adjust how like hard I pull on a door. That's like the house getting into me in its own way
Yeah.
too.
That's so smart. But God, that's so relatable because I mean, my house does the same thing. My house is old as shit.
Yeah.
So it's super relatable. Because in fact, this very door right here to the guest room, like you have to like lift it and then pull it. Like
No.
yeah, you have to you end up morphing around the place that you live in too. And it really feels like, this place had previous history before
Mhm.
Jude got there, right? But it also in some ways still feels like a blank canvas for her to one, unpack what she's dealt with, and two, like whatever is there to kind of help her or hinder her, depending on how you want to look at it, with
Yeah.
that process. It's a really unique, the word that I think of is a communion between
Yeah.
Jude and the house, It's like give and take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the other part of this setting with Candle is that it's surrounded by woods, right? And so like Jude has to rely on the wilderness to survive. And
Hmm.
she really kind of takes to it. She's very um like she gets a schedule and like the title comes like, from on Sundays she picks flowers for the house. Like she kind of relegates to what she will do and like how she will care. And then we have this
Yeah.
part where the quote unquote beast, which we think is a bear, shows up
Yes.
and she kind of again it's a strange communion that she forms and she's like, okay, well, it didn't hurt me, I'm gonna leave it some offerings on the porch, and then
Yeah.
she takes to kind of somewhat caring about it. And there's a unique symbiotic relationship between the wilderness and Jude that I feel like we we get introduced to thematically at this point before it progresses otherwise. What like what do you see that relationship as with Jude at this point for her and her character development and where she's at physically?
As in between Jude in the house or Jude in the woods?
Jude in the woods more so.
I think I say it in the book. There's a line where it's like Jude had never been like she's accustomed to nature.
Hmm.
Growing up in the South, you can't help but being accustomed to like nature.
Yeah.
But learning to like actually be a part of nature and getting to like play in the dirt and touch and get sweaty and get mussed up, learning to be like her truest self. And her truest self is the girl who's like digging in the dirt, touching worms, eating dirt in her case, like being like tangible and touching and rooted. So I think rooted is like the key word for Jude's relationship to the woods at this point. And
Hmm.
really throughout the whole novel of being like, I'm here. There's a certain scene, and I think you know what scene I'm talking about, where it's like she's literally like rooted to the land now. The land
Yeah.
is hers. She is the land's. Like the house said, this is our sister. Let's go. This is
Yeah.
us. One of us. One of us.
That's a really unique relationship that I was really excited to explore with this book. I think especially in the eyes of all that Jude had been through and like her healing. And she's a sewer too. Like she sews these quilts that are these like really some of them, like progressively get more elaborate and they tell a story. And I also wanted to ask about the point of inspiration for that because, like I have plenty of people in my family who sew and they, like when we graduated high school, my grandma would always sew us a quilt with like our
Yeah.
school's colors and stuff like that. So I think I don't know if that's a Southern thing. I think it might be a Southern thing, but I was curious for you where that came from.
There's an extra layer. So I kind of, when I was little, I was in a quilting club at my church, but then I dropped out. I don't remember how to sew. I want to get back into it. But
Yeah.
a huge source of inspiration so much for the quilting were the quilts of Gee's Bend,
Hmm.
particularly just like the tradition of quilting within African American communities here in the South, of like quilting as a way to tell a story,
Hmm.
as of course of like family heirlooms and comfort, but mostly being like, this is where we've been. Here is the quilt we show how we went from north to south. Here is the quilt that shows just like pure skill using what we have, like scraps of work clothes here and there. There's this particular quilt, I don't remember the name of it, but they used to have it here at the Atlanta Museum of Art.
Hmm.
It was like this big gorgeous quilt, and it's like biblical scenes.
Yeah.
The patience and the time it takes to take like, oh, I'm not going to wear this dress anymore. I'm not going to have this scarf anymore. And incorporating that and having all this like family history in a quilt while also being able to tell stories and pass down memories. Yeah.
That's super, yeah. It's super intentional, I think is the word
Yeah.
that comes to mind. And I really kind of love that Jude is doing it for herself. I think that that's a big thing is that she's
Yes.
making these quilts for, it's just her in this house at this point.
Yes.
So I think that that's really unique that she makes the choice to create in this way to kind of document her own journey for herself. And that feels important. Like it feels like it's a step in her
Yes.
character development to say like I am worth documenting. You know what I mean? Like in this way.
Yes. And I'm worth keeping warm. Just me.
Yes. Yes, yes. No, I love that very, very much. But Jude doesn't stay alone for very long. She does get a visitor. And I want to ask if I'm pronouncing their name correctly. Is it Nimora or Nimariah? Can you pronounce it for me?
It's Namora.
Namora.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I had it right the first time. Okay, so
Yeah.
Namora arrives, and it's a really interesting thing because I think a lot of times in horror, isolation is like this indicator of madness.
Yeah.
But for Jude, like it was quite comforting for many, many years, and then she didn't really realize how alone she was until she had somebody else show up. So I wanted to
Yeah.
kind of explore the role of like isolation for Jude at this point and how that changes once. she's no longer alone.
Yeah. I'm gonna reference another art piece.
Go ahead,
But
yeah.
there's this, it's like this dog, and it's the difference between loneliness and being alone. Being alone is a dog holding its own leash,
Hmm.
but loneliness is a dog on a leash tugging at its chain, trying to get away.
I
And I
like that.
think before Namora was there, I would love to remember what name of that piece is. I'll try to find it. But before Namora, when it was just her in the woods for all those years, it's just like I'm finally by myself because for 41 years it was her and her mother
Hmm.
always like you don't get to have your door locked, you don't get to have your door closed. There's never a moment of like complete privacy because someone can always just like burst in on you, command your attention, do this, do that. And to be able to like have a room of your own, a house of your
Yeah.
own, and to be like, this is my space, this is my time. I can do whatever I please with my time. No one is expecting me to do anything. I don't expect me to do anything. But then the addition of Nemorin going, oh, I was happy with like silence and solitude and like no one expecting anything of me. But like it is nice to have hear someone like laugh at my jokes. It is nice to have someone it's nice to sing and then have someone sing with me. It's nice to like know there's somebody else in the house. Not necessarily that they're gonna like encroach on my space, but knowing that if I want company, I can go down and be like, hey, let's walk. Let's talk about something. Let's do something together.
Yeah. It's a really unique relationship that grows in a few different ways. And, it's still you would think that the Southern Gothic nature of the story would be certainly,
Yeah.
up front at the beginning of the book whenever Jude leaves home and all of her family secrets. But even whenever she's at Candle, there are still
Yeah.
some secrets between Namora and Jude. And I think that
Oh, yes.
really flourishes at that point. How did it feel to kind of sustain that theme or that energy throughout the book in such a way, even though so many circumstances change?
I think so. I hate when stories tell me everything too soon.
Yeah.
I don't like knowing everything all at once. It makes me very like I can close. There's so many books I've read where it's like, okay, now I feel like I know it. I know what's gonna happen. I'm closing this. I'm bored. I'm
Yeah.
ready to like. You haven't encaptured me or enraptured me. I did many times want to be like, oh, I want to tell you now. Oh, I want to tell them now what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen. But then I thought to my own self, what would you like to read? And there's this very pretty word I just learned that's called lacunae. It's just like an absence and a space. And I feel like a good piece of horror, a good piece of horror that means not to just like scare you, but to terrify you,
Hmm.
leaves big, big chunks of emptiness and nothingness and space for you not only to ponder and be like, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop? But also spaces just to like be quiet and reflective. Because if that makes any sense at all, I feel like I'm talking
No,
absolute.
not at all. Well, no, I
Okay.
think so. Like, I was actually talking with another author about this the other day.
Yeah.
Whenever there are definitely books that like I will reach for whenever I want everything spelled out for me. But a lot of
Yeah.
times I don't really care for that. I like
Yeah.
the ambiguity. And I think it's a really big compliment whenever the author puts it in the reader's hands in that way because there's an idea that the
Yeah.
author has confidence in the reader's ability to get where they're leading us without dropping every hint and
Yes.
clue along the way. Like there's enough inference, there's enough, groundwork there, so to speak.
That the reader is intelligent. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's big. So we're talking about at this point where Namora comes in and her and Jude are living together. And then Jude is like
Mhm.
also learning things about herself at this point when she's in the middle of her life. Like she's not in her 20s, she's in her 30s and 40s at this point. What was it like to write
Yeah.
about this perspective of a woman who's still learning about herself and the things that she wants and desires at this point?
It felt so crazy cool. Um, Originally when I wrote Jude, she was in her like 20s. She was like 21, 22. But then first I thought this seems a little bit too easy. And then I thought this is not enough time for her to have had other lessons.
Hmm.
The fun thing about Jude being 41 when she leaves is that she's 41, right? That's
Yeah.
like such a long time to be like basically a prisoner in your house and to not
Yeah.
have access to your own thoughts. Like you have like some practical life lessons. You know certain things, you know certain aspects of yourself, but you're not fully allowed to like bloom and blossom and fully understand, especially when you're living under a mother like Ernestine.
Hmm.
So going into the woods and being like, wait, I'm essentially still like a child. I don't really know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know really what pleases me, what makes me happy. I only know how to survive.
Hmm.
So those years in the woods, just Jude being like, oh yeah, I am a person. I'm human and I have all these like feelings and I'm ready to explore them now that it's safe for me to do so.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like, everybody kind of goes through that at different parts of their life, whether it's like now in your 20s, whenever like you leave home for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
or later on. But I know like now I've had so many people tell me that like, oh, now that you're in your 20s, you get to be like the weird middle school kid that you were, and like
Right.
embrace all your like your weird hobbies and whatever. And it is really liberating to kind of return back to the things that you love that maybe other people judge you for, or that you
Yeah.
didn't feel safe to explore at, X, Y, and Z time. But obviously in Jude's instance, it's very extreme because of
Yes.
her and her mother's relationship. And I have to ask, like, this book just feels like it's in such conversation with The Haunting of Hill House. And it's in the front of my mind because I
Yeah.
just read it for the first time at the end of last year. And so I wanted to ask what your relationship to The Haunting of Hill House is, and like what spoke to you about that story that you kind of carried into writing this book?
I read it for the first time, I think, when I was either at the end of 17, late 17, early 17, early 18. I read it for the first time and I was like, wait, this eats. I had written the first draft of Song Sundays before I read it. So when I read it, I was like, wait, is this play about us?
Yeah,
And I
that's
really
such a
loved
good
it. It's
point.
just the aura. Gosh, there's so many points of Hill House that when I was rewriting on Sundays and rewriting it, it was like I wanted to make little interances, interference.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce words. I know how to read them. Cannot pronounce.
I know
And
that
references
feeling.
to the book. I wanted to have like little references here and there so other people could be like, the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's pointing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was mostly trying to capture the feeling of thinking, yay, I'm free now. And then the unease of like the past standing beside you, like,
Yeah.
you can't run away from me, baby. Like, you come with you. Yeah, you come with you wherever you go.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are is one of my
Yeah.
favorite things that is explored with horror. It's like despite your very best efforts, you were still you.
Like Eleanor
Um,
ran from her sister. She was like, I'm leaving my sister and her brother-in-law. I'm taking the car. I'm independent now. But it's like, hello, the house is like crawling on the house is like, hello, we want Eleanor. We want Eleanor. Stay with us. Stay with us. And it's like, I love it.
I,
And
I
I wanted
know,
to
and
bring that feeling over.
I think you definitely did because there was something so fucking upsetting in Hill
Yeah.
House about like the eagerness and it's almost like childlike wonder that we see Eleanor experience when she's just like interacting with people for the first time
Yeah.
outside of her other predicament, and then to be met with such cruelty by the house of like essentially gaslighting her
No,
and to
truly.
yeah, into thinking that, this is your reality. It's all going to be fine now. You have friends, you have a found family, essentially. There might be love for you here, there might be whatever, and then we're going to take it all away from you.
Yeah.
Um, it's really, really upsetting, but you kind of flip that notion on its head with this book because Jude is a really, and not to say that Eleanor in Hill House is not strong, she is just in different ways, but
Yeah.
Jude in particular, she is really, really brave because she goes back home. She makes the
Oh,
decision to go home
she's
and
like, oh, let
reconfront
me go
everything.
back into the pit to see if there's
Yeah.
something else there.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about that decision and kind of how that felt for you to write about this woman who knows is pretty damn bad at home, and being brave enough or whatever enough to go.
So part of it's practical. Kendall at this point is falling apart. She can't stay there. The memories are too much. And I think on a deeper level, as I said, it's like what I want to go back and look at my family tree to see what is it that caused me to be the way that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jude always has to go back to the house. Some
Yeah.
people can manage not going back. I think at in a different time, a different place, if my family situation had turned out anything different, it'd be like, I ain't going back.
Yeah.
But we've had done the healing part. So I don't mind being back and it's comfortable to be back. I guess it's kind of a Jude situation, but not really. I swear, I'm fine. I swear I'm
Yeah.
fine. But Jude needs to go back to like see what is in her. Like through since her mother, she can't ask her mother, why the hell did you do that to me? Why did you make me the way that I am? She has to ask the second and third best options, which are
Yeah.
her aunties who grew up with her and knew and could see the kind of person Ernestine is and who she was becoming and who she was making Jude into.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, there's a big chunk of the book that I'm glossing over here because I don't want to spoil anything for
Right.
anyone, but there is a reason that she decides to go home. Something happens at Candle that she just, like you said, it's time that she can't stay. And I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing with that was her kind of recognizing anger within herself and like this violence within herself
Yes.
that I think reminded her of her mother. And then she was like, oh shit, like what am I gonna do with that? And I think that's a really hard thing to recognize parts of yourself that you've maybe seen in other iterations with your family that you used to have feelings about and then
Yes.
being like, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's such a strange feeling. There's no word for it, I don't think.
Horrible stomach cramp. Tummy
Yeah.
tummy ache. We can call the feeling tummy ache.
Yeah, it's a tummy ache for sure. But you do bring up the two aunts, Vivian and Phyllis. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you, I fucking love them both.
Aren't they something?
They are. Oh my God. We when we kind of transition back to them, we get a chapter or two from, I think it's Vivian's standpoint when she's just like doing the laundry. Like she's at the
Yes.
laundromat doing the laundry.
Oh, that's one
And
of
that
my
was,
favorite ones.
yes, same. It was one of my favorite parts of the book. I just want to talk about them endlessly.
Let's do
Um,
it. Let's go.
but I want to just kind of give you the space to talk about both of them and the way and how they handle because they handle what's happened within their family very differently.
Mm,
And I think it's really interesting to see these women interact with one another and carry on a life with one another despite being so different.
mm. So I think something that was very interesting to me about Vivian and Phyllis is that they are kind of amalgamations of many kinds of like women I grew up with,
Hmm.
where you will know something is like so horribly wrong. And you have Phyllis's reaction where you're like, this isn't right. And I know it isn't right. And I'm holding it in my heart that this isn't right, but I can't change it.
Hmm.
And then more of Vivian's point of view where you're like, even though there is some small part of me that knows that way I'm treated and the way that children are treated and other people around me are being treated is downright cruel. This is what it takes to be strong. This is what it takes to be alive. There is a line that Phyllis has actually when she's in the laundromat where she's like, if I hadn't seen my sister, if I hadn't been beaten so brutally by my father,
Hmm.
if I hadn't been whipped, if I hadn't gone through that torture of my childhood, I wouldn't have been able to handle seeing my sister's torn and ruined face. But then
Yeah.
that brings up the thing of like, well, if your father hadn't beaten and tortured you and your sisters, if your mom hadn't like looked away while your father was doing all these horrible things, if there wasn't this culture of abuse and cruelty and I do this because I love you, your sister would have been alive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
And this,
very like chicken or the egg predicament that whenever you
yeah,
try and do the thought experiment of and you unpack it, it's hard to say where you would stand
yeah,
had that, not happened.
they were
Um,
really a chance for me to explore like how, what would I do and how would I stand it if I wasn't me, if I
mhm.
was born in a different time and if I didn't maybe no, because I won't say have the strength because like I know all the women that came before me are so strong.
Yeah.
And I know it's like a matter of upbringing. It's just a matter of like how much do you think is necessary and how much do you think can be taken?
Yeah. That's such a good point. And I think, in particular for women, I feel like it like a story like within a family, right?
Hmm.
Like I feel like every time a mom has a child, they want to hopefully provide better for them than their experience, but mitigating circumstances, like in Jude and Ernestine's case,
Hmm.
there's so much in the way. There's so much
Yeah.
circumstance that prevents that from happening. And I think, like you said, you have Vivian and you have Phyllis, who are just two very different people in terms of personality and what they experienced when they were growing up, that kind of dictate how they handle the now.
Yeah.
And I find, Phyllis, you really kind of draw, like a heart connection to, because she's the kind of the kinder one, the more empathetic
Yes.
one off the bat.
Yeah.
But Vivian with her secret drinking and
Oh, I
her
love Vivian.
anger, I kind of love her anger.
He is
Um,
much to me.
she's just so direct, right? Like
Yes.
she knows how she feels and she's not afraid to express it, although there is some trepidation about naming it correctly or like
Yeah.
allocating it in the correct space, which I think is the biggest difference between generations, right? Like
Yeah.
willing to say I'm angry about what happened to me this way instead of just being angry in general.
Right. It's like Jude's able to say, I'm hurt because this, and this. And she's like, while Vivian's more like, I'm just gonna start screaming.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start screaming.
Yeah, she's just gonna fuck shit up. She's gonna throw some tables and be upset.
And I will
Uh,
say, sorry, I will say when I think Vivian reminds me more of my grandmother on my father's side.
mhm.
Elements of her remind me more of parts of my grandmother on my father's side, while Phyllis is more, she reminds me of this newer, of like quote unquote boomer generation. My
Mhm.
parents trying to unlearn things from, well, I guess Gen X, trying to unlearn things that their parents put in them.
Yeah.
I
It's
think Phyllis is trying because she thinks she could have done better, but
yeah.
Vivian does not want to try because if she tries and does better, then she has to admit like, oh,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not trying at all.
Yeah, or that, that what she's been doing for however many years at this point has been wrong. Like that's such a I think harrowing idea to people whenever they realize that their thinking has been flawed for a really long time. It's easier to
Mhm.
to find an excuse than to face the music of, 60 70 some odd years, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, they both, I really, really enjoyed equally their stories, learning about them and what they had been through, in
Mhm.
addition to Jude's. And the other part of Jude returning home is that we learn that the house that both the aunts are living in, which was the one that Jude and her mother last lived in,
Mhm.
is not exactly at rest.
Nope.
And may I just say that you have a kind of imagery that you have of some of the ruckus that unfolds in this house. It scared the shit out of me.
Oh, thank you.
In particular, a set of clothes that walks down the hall at night.
Oh, that was one of my
Um,
favorite scenes to write.
oh, yeah, that one got me, man. Like I just, whoo, that one got me.
Spooky to
What did
think
it?
about.
Yeah, how did that feel to write about that house? Because, I think that a lot of writing horror can be kind of fun to like
Yes.
let the demons out to dance, so to speak. So I wanted to hear about writing the aspects of the house once Jude returns and once the ants are living there.
So the house, I think, was already, it had no choice but to be a sick and horrible house
Yeah.
simply because of who made it.
Yep.
And then the additional like layer of every act of cruelty committed in that house, making the land like bloodier and meaner.
Yeah.
So when Jude does leave and then the ants are inside, it's like now you're getting the full effect. You're getting years and years of pain, years and years of blood, years and years of abuse, and it's already like come out and start screaming, right?
Yeah.
Like their father's voice can be heard in other rooms, yelling. You can hear crying from other rooms. Of course, the scene with the clothes walking.
Yeah.
I thought just like, of course, I thought, ooh, what would be very scary?
Yeah.
But I also thought, how would it feel if you went to like your grandma's house and your grandma's house was like more than a little fucked up.
Yeah. I think that you nailed that feeling for
Yeah.
sure.
Like
And
there's like deep thoughts behind it, but also this one was very much a case of like, be kind of spooky, but also poignant.
no, for sure. And you bring up a really good point about like the house was always going to be this way kind of because of who created it. And you have like excellent, excellent passages about that very idea that feel like, nods to Hill House and that kind of thing about wrongness in architecture and all that good stuff. But it almost feels like a promise that the patriarch of this family has made to persist in this
In poetry, yes.
yeah, in this lifestyle. And to have three strong women who come to their strength in different ways or find peace in their own different ways, kind of defy that and find a way to, live a life that is in, opposition to that mindset was really,
Mhm.
really beautiful to read.
Yay. I do like one of the concepts I did like writing in this story, in which I like writing in a lot of my stories, is the idea that there are certain houses, especially if you're like a woman of a certain age or a woman of really any age, you can't be an adult in that house, especially with the case of Ernestine and her sisters and Jude. Like, there is no way for any of them to be grown women in their father's house.
Yeah.
Because like he's always there.
Mm-hmm.
His portrait is there. His voice is always there. Every single beating and lesson he taught them is there. They can't like so much as like go downstairs without thinking, oh, but I did this one time. My dad did that.
Yeah.
I think there's this another reference, but I didn't reference it directly here. There's this one scene in The Handmaiden where she's like trying to run to the door and like her uncle rings a bell or like hits his cane in some way and immediately she kind of like locks in and goes like whoop and
Mm-hmm.
runs back into place where she like quote unquote belongs. And I think their father's presence is that in the house. Their father's presence is just like that bell, that like classical conditioning that tells them act like this, act like that, stay in your
Yeah.
place, be small, be afraid.
Right. Well, they literally like in a physical way though, there's the present or the trauma, like if we want to just call it capital T trauma that is like living in
Yes,
this house. It is relegated the aunts, they live in like one bedroom and
yes,
they don't use the kitchen, they don't use certain parts of the house, like they
right.
wash their dishes in the bathroom. Like that particular like manifestation of that kind of like a caged life is
Yes.
very, very, I feel like it went very far thematically to show how far the reach of that father's impact was, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
No, it makes, listen, we both can't be like, is that right? Just
Yeah.
two incredibly intelligent women going, I don't know. You're making
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, we gotta break that habit one day maybe, but it'll
But
come.
not
It'll come.
today. Fine. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, such a good point. Okay. Well, that does bring me to my last topic that I kind of wanted to end on. It is about the ending of the novel, which I'm not gonna say because that's a spoiler, but did
Let's
you
talk about it
always
later.
have yeah. Did you always have this very it's a really beautiful ending in my opinion in mind for Jude and where she finds herself? Or was this something that changed for you over time? Like how did you discover this place for Jude?
Always knew I wanted Jude to have this like, if not so much of a happy ending, a comfortable, satisfying ending.
Yeah.
I don't, here's gonna sound like so sick. I don't like when books end happily. A happily ever after is so disappointing to me. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
no.
then they all got married and had babies and they were happy forever and it was perfect. It was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But I like an ending that's just like that not is like all good or all bad, but an ending that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I felt like Jude having this perfect circular moment, starting where she began, or starting where we meet her again,
Mm-hmm.
and this time being able to say, I'm setting very firm boundaries
Yes.
and I want to be happy. And I want to be happy in this situation. And I want to be happy in this woods and in this house. I am not going back to my mother's house. I am not going back to fear and like anger and rage like that, I'm like, the concept of healing is so strange, right?
Yeah.
Because you never, the wound closes, but it still aches sometimes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that never ends. And this is Jude saying, right now, my wound is closed up. It's aching, and I don't want you to open it anymore. I don't want anything to ruin and break me off this path. So if I'm going to be happy, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I just hope it's satisfying to other people. Because
Oh
as I'm
no.
saying it out loud, it sounds silly, but it's like, but it makes sense, right? Of just like
No, it makes
everything
total
clicking
sense.
into place.
Yeah, well, I think that with the biggest thing I think that we're rooting for Jude the whole time, or at least, I was, is like some semblance of peace,
Yes.
some semblance of harmony, and I think that that comes whenever you kind of fully understand yourself and what you need to be in that place. And I think
Mhm.
this whole journey for Jude is understanding what that means for her, what that looks like for her. Um, and that's why she goes back to the houses to figure out, what's in her past and why she is the way that she is, and to be able to give her a space where she can lay out what she does need so succinctly. And it's kind of like a sigh. It's not an exact happy ending with, doves flying in the air and all that kind of good stuff, but it is like a
Yeah.
promise of she's putting herself first, and hopefully that'll dictate the rest of her life in a way that's productive to her and not harmful to her.
Yes.
Yeah. It made I was very emotional ending. I was getting teary-eyed when I read it because I was like, yes, girl, Jude, we
And I
get
love
it.
that. I think we
Yes.
all should be crying over Jude.
Yes. Me too. Me too. Well, that wraps up all of my like really in-depth questions about the book. But I wanted to ask like just one kind of big question. This is your debut novel. This is your book baby, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of feelings around releasing your art into the world for the first time in this way. What is your like biggest hope, or like do you have any hopes or expectations, or are you just like thrilled that this book is out in the world? Because this feels like a big story to me. This
Yeah.
feels like a really emotional story. So I just want to hear where you're at with this book, what your relationship with the story is, and, how you're feeling.
I hope more than anything that it makes other Black, gay, autistic people feel seen.
Hmm.
I remember when I was like young and I'm like middle school, high school, and like reading all these horrors, reading Carrie in particular, and
Oh
thinking,
man.
oh God, is this play about us? Oh my God, she's me for real. But then also
Yeah.
wishing like, oh, but I wish she was actually me for real.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish she was actually, I wish she looked like me. And I wish some of her experiences reflected me more, but less in like a what? I feel bad when things are not about me and more
Yeah.
like there's like nothing about me ever. And I'd like to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so really Jude was a reflection of like all of my anxiety and my anger and my specifically my like teenage young anger, the anger
Hmm.
of like other like Black victims of childhood abuse,
Hmm.
victims of abuse in general, of just being able to be like, you can scream.
Yeah.
You can scream. Ah! And like, yeah, I hope people read it and not only feel seen, but know that it's like, okay. And I hope this sentence makes total sense. It feels like a total mood changer, but it is what happened to you in your past. It doesn't, it does define you because it happened to you, right? And it
Hmm.
changed, like literally in the case of trauma, it changed your entire brain chemistry. It changed the way that your body reacts to like stimulus.
Hmm.
But there's no shame in being a
Hmm.
victim, and there's no shame in having survived something horrible. And there's no
Yeah.
shame in that having like changed you.
Yeah. To
But the
have gone
change,
on that journey, to have experience. Yeah, like that.
change is not irreparable. The
Yeah.
knife wound can heal. You're still human despite all of it. Despite the woods, despite, the head cracked to the wall, despite all the horrors, you have made it through and you have outlasted and survived. And I hope that book like keeps that feeling Okay, I can make it.
Yeah. No, I think it really does. And I think that if there's a few words that I think about when I think about Jude, I think about her resilience. I think about her grit and her determination. And she's just so they're all of the women in your book are really damn strong for different reasons, but Jude in particular is just, her tenacity to not lose sight of herself once she finds herself, I think is really, really remarkable. So it's really it's making me emotional talking about
Right.
it
I'm
because
like
I
trying not
think
to cry either. I
I
just
know
like
it's hard to give words and shape to those feelings that you have when you're younger
yeah,
that you want to be seen for who you are and like whatever way that is like because I remember reading Carrie. It's so weird that you're bringing up Carrie because
yes,
I read it for the first time a few years back and I'm like Jesus, this was like also very relatable at a slant, at a tilt. You still had to like thematically its own brand, but the
yeah,
specifics weren't necessarily there. But how damn special is it when you do pick up a piece of art that does mirror you almost exactly?
yeah.
So yeah, I no, I'm super thrilled for you, man. Like I don't know if this is weird to say, but like I'm proud of you.
No, and thank you
Because
so much. When I say your reviews have literally brought like I fell to the floor and actually boohooed a little bit.
oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
No, your book it's really something special, and I'm really, really thrilled that it's going to be out in the world in like 2 days. And I do want to ask, are you doing like any book events for the book the release of the book? Like what can we expect
Oh
from
yes,
you in
yes, 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 yes.
2026? Like that kind of thing.
So 20, so on the 27th, actually, I'm having a conversation at Charis Books in Decatur. Dr. Ra Malika Imhotep. I'll be speaking to her on the 27th about my book. I get to
Awesome.
talk about my baby.
That's gonna be awesome.
Like,
That is, and this is gonna be in Georgia, correct? You said Decatur.
yes,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and doing stuff at home like that too is something
yes,
special, I'd imagine as well.
yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited.
Good. Well, is there anything that we did not cover about the book or about anything really that you wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap
Nothing
things
that
up?
wouldn't spoil the fun.
Okay. Such a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that we've talked around the biggest spoilers of the book as best as we can. And is there anything that you're working on now that we can expect from you in the future? Book, short story, otherwise, anywhere in that realm?
I am working on book two right now. I described it to my agent as if, like, imagine if you lived through Flowers in the Attic and then you still had to come downstairs.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah.
I, it at first I was just gonna focus on like two generations, but now I'm thinking I have to do the four generations of women that led to the circumstance. I was inspired, of course, by Flowers in the Attic, but
Yeah.
also by my favorite documentary in the entire world, Grey Gardens. Oh
hmm
my goodness. So yes, I'm ready to have my big 90,000 word stomach hurter.
Oh, hey, I'm on board. So I am gonna be the first person in line for it. I'm all for that.
Yes, and I think I do have some short story ideas, but like writing a short story, my short stories always turn out to be like 10,000 words. Writing the short story in the middle of writing an epic is a bit
Yeah.
much. So I'm
Yeah,
being
yeah, no,
patient
no,
with
no.
myself.
That's a lot. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And short stories are hard, man. Like
Oh,
being
they're so hard
punchy.
because like where do you stop?
Yeah, it's hard to know timing and like when to be punchy and like when do you pull back
Yeah,
and all that good stuff.
it's
So I
difficult. It's
no,
hard.
I'm with you there. But thank you so much, Yaya, for this conversation. It has been absolutely lovely. I am so thrilled that this book is going to be in the world in 2 days, absolutely no time at all. And once more, this
That's
is
spooky.
yes, on Sunday She Picked Flowers. It's coming out from Saga Press on January 27th. Thank you so much again, Yaya.
Thank you.
Another really, really big thank you to Yaya for their time coming on, chatting so in depth about their work and the story with On Sundays She Picked Flowers. I'm sure you can tell at a few points in this conversation where we both kind of equally get giddy about a few things. Whether it's Shirley Jackson, the Haunting of Hill House of it all, Southern things that make its way into the book, things like that. I have to say, it is so incredibly heartening to see Yaya write the story and like get the story out in the world as somebody who is like also from the South. It just is one of the coolest things ever. And, like similar age ranges for us. So again, I just could not be more thrilled for them. And, hopefully this release week has treated them well. I beg all of you to go pick this book up. It is incredible. It really kind of defies some expectations and goes some unexpected places, but it is so freaking gorgeous. It is truly impeccable, and I cannot recommend it enough. I also want to point you over to Neil McRoberts' podcast, Talking Scares. I'm sure you all are aware of that one. He also interviewed Yaya, and I haven't had the chance to listen to it yet. I will be doing so now that this is done. But if you want to hear some more about this, I'm probably a little bit more eloquent than I can offer, given that he's an academic in this space. Definitely check out that conversation. I will be returning on Tuesday with another episode for you all. Stay tuned to see who that will be. Watch my social media pages. Thank you all for a great first week back. Downloads have been wonderful. Not that that's why I'm doing this, but it's always like really heartening to see when people are equally excited about this thing as I am. So thank you all. I hope that you all are staying warm. I hope that you all have had as good of a week as we can, given the state of the world at this moment. Um, be kind to one another. Be good to one another. Love each other. That's my biggest sentiment that I can offer at this state of the world. So until I talk to you all next week, be good.